In the final days of the Russian Empire, a figure emerged from the shadows, shrouded in mystery, scandal, and power. His name was Rasputin, a man feared and revered, loved and loathed. But who was Rasputin truly? Was he a holy man with divine healing powers, or a sinister puppetmaster manipulating the Russian court for his own gain? Our story begins in the remote village of Pokrovskoye, deep in the heart of Siberia. It was here, on January 21st, 1869, that Grigori Yefimovich Rasputin was born into a peasant family. Life in Siberia was harsh and unforgiving. Rasputin grew up in a world where survival was a daily struggle, and religious faith offered the only solace. His early years were marked by poverty, hard work, and a deep connection to the land and its traditions. From a young age, Rasputin displayed an intense spiritual curiosity. Unlike his peers, who were content with the simple teachings of the village priest, Rasputin sought a deeper connection with the divine. This quest for spiritual enlightenment would define his life. In his early 20s, Rasputin experienced a profound religious awakening. Driven by visions and a sense of divine purpose, he left his home and embarked on a pilgrimage. This journey took him across Russia, visiting monasteries and holy sites, seeking wisdom from religious leaders and mystics. It was during this pilgrimage that Rasputin's reputation as a mystic and healer began to grow. Stories of his miraculous abilities spread, attracting the attention of both the devout and the curious. By the early 1900s, Rasputin's journey led him to the heart of the Russian Empire, St. Petersburg. The city was a stark contrast to the rural simplicity of Siberia, a vibrant metropolis teeming with political intrigue and social change. Through a series of fortuitous connections, Rasputin found himself introduced to influential members of the Russian aristocracy. His charisma, coupled with his reputation as a healer, quickly earned him a place among the elite. Rasputin's rise to prominence was swift. His ability to alleviate the suffering of the Tsarevich Alexei, who was afflicted with haemophilia, brought him into the inner circle of the Romanov family. Tsarina Alexandra, in particular, believed Rasputin was a God-sent savior, further cementing his influence at court. From a humble Siberian peasant to a trusted advisor to the Tsar and Tsarina, Rasputin's early life set the stage for his controversial and dramatic role in Russian history. Rasputin's entry into the royal court marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one that would entwine his fate with that of the Romanov dynasty. In 1905, Rasputin was introduced to Tsar Nicholas II and Tsarina Alexandra. The royal couple, desperate to find relief for their son, the Tsarevich Alexei, who suffered from haemophilia, were drawn to Rasputin's reputed healing abilities. Haemophilia, a genetic disorder that prevents blood from clotting properly, plagued the young Tsarevich. Traditional medical treatments had little effect, and the royal family was desperate for a miracle. Rasputin's intervention seemed miraculous. On several occasions, when Alexei was gravely ill, Rasputin's prayers and presence appeared to bring the boy back from the brink of death. But what was the secret behind these apparent healings? Historians and medical experts have debated the mechanisms behind Rasputin's perceived ability to heal Alexei. Several theories have emerged over the years. One theory suggests that Rasputin's calm and confident demeanor had a psychosomatic effect on Alexei and his family, reducing their stress and indirectly helping Alexei's condition. Stress and anxiety can exacerbate haemophilia symptoms, and Rasputin's presence may have provided a calming influence. Another theory involves the use of aspirin. At the time, aspirin was commonly prescribed for pain, but it also acts as a blood thinner, worsening haemophilia symptoms. Rasputin, who advised against modern medicine and advocated for more natural remedies, may have inadvertently helped Alexei by discouraging the use of aspirin. There is also the possibility that Rasputin's use of simple herbal remedies and his emphasis on prayer and rest contributed to Alexei's recovery during acute episodes. His holistic approach may have complemented the limited medical knowledge of the time. Ultimately, the exact nature of Rasputin's healing powers remains a mystery. Whether through faith, psychology, or a fortunate alignment of circumstances, Rasputin earned the unwavering trust of the Romanov family, especially Tsarina Alexandra. Tsarina Alexandra, in particular, placed immense faith in Rasputin. She believed he was a man of God, sent to protect her son, and by extension, the Russian Empire. This unwavering belief gave Rasputin unprecedented influence over her and through her, the Tsar. Rasputin's influence extended beyond the sick room. He began to advise the Tsarina on political matters, leveraging his position to affect court decisions. His counsel, often rooted in his own vision and beliefs, started to shape the policies of the Russian Empire. As Rasputin's influence grew, so did the controversies and rumours. His behaviour, often seen as unorthodox and scandalous, sparked outrage among the nobility and the public. Rasputin's reputation as a mad monk was fueled by tales of his debauchery and excessive lifestyle. His enemies accused him of manipulating the royal family for personal gain, while rumours of his promiscuity and drunken escapades only tarnished his image further. The media seized upon these stories, portraying Rasputin as a corrupt, malevolent force at the heart of the empire. Despite this, the Tsarina's unwavering support shielded him from immediate backlash, further entrenching his position within the royal court. Rasputin's relationship with the Romanovs became a lightning rod for controversy, symbolizing both the hope of a desperate mother and the fears of a nation on the brink of revolution. As his influence peaked, so too did the forces arrayed against him, setting the stage for the dramatic events that would follow. The origins of the Mad Monk moniker can be traced to the stories that began circulating about Rasputin's behaviour. To some, he was a holy man with mystical powers. To others, he was a dangerous charlatan whose erratic actions posed a threat to the stability of the empire. Rasputin's behaviour often oscillated between devout mysticism and wild debauchery. Accounts of his intense prayer sessions and mystical practices were interspersed with stories of drunken revelries and licentious escapades. Eyewitnesses spoke of Rasputin's hypnotic eyes and his ability to captivate and manipulate those around him. His alleged healing powers, combined with his magnetic personality, drew a loyal following among the devout and the curious alike. However, his unconventional lifestyle and close association with the royal family also made him a target of scandal. Rumours of Rasputin's sexual exploits and his influence over the Tsarina fueled gossip and suspicion. Public scandals erupted as stories of Rasputin's behaviour spread. It was said that he hosted orgiastic parties, indulged in excessive drinking, and used his position to seduce women of the court. The media seized upon these tales, sensationalizing them to the point of frenzy. Headlines depicted Rasputin as a debauched villain, painting a picture of a man who wielded dark influence over the Russian throne. Public outrage grew as more details of his scandals came to light. The perception of Rasputin as a corrupt and malevolent force contributed to the growing unrest within Russian society, already teetering on the edge of revolution. The backlash against Rasputin was intense. His presence in the royal court became a symbol of everything that was perceived to be wrong with the Russian autocracy. As whispers turned into shouts, the clamour for his removal grew louder. Rasputin's mad monk persona, a blend of mystic, healer, and debauched charlatan, made him one of the most polarising figures of his time. Loved by some, hated by many, his life became a focal point for the frustrations of a nation on the brink of seismic change. Rasputin's closeness to Tsarina Alexandra allowed him unprecedented access to the inner workings of the Russian Empire. He was often seen advising the Tsarina on a range of issues, from court appointments to military strategy. Allegations abounded that Rasputin was manipulating royal decisions to serve his own ends or those of his allies. His detractors claimed he used his influence to appoint his followers to key positions within the government and the church, effectively creating a network of loyal supporters. Rasputin's influence extended into the realm of international affairs as well. During World War I, his advice to the Tsarina reportedly affected Russia's military strategy. Some historians argue that his opposition to the war's continuation stemmed from a genuine desire for peace, while others believe it was part of a broader plan to destabilize the government. Rasputin's growing influence inevitably created a host of enemies. Within the royal court and the government, opposition to his perceived meddling became increasingly vocal. Nobles, military officers, and politicians alike viewed him as a threat to the stability of the empire. Plots against Rasputin began to take shape. His opponents believed that removing him from power was essential to restoring order and credibility to the monarchy. Among the most notable conspirators were Prince Felix Yusupov and Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, who saw Rasputin's influence as both dangerous and illegitimate. Despite several assassination attempts, Rasputin proved remarkably resilient. His survival only fueled his mystique and the belief that he was protected by divine forces. Yet, with each failed attempt, his enemies became more determined. The broader public sentiment also turned against Rasputin. The growing unrest within Russian society, exacerbated by the hardships of war and economic instability, found a convenient scapegoat in the figure of Rasputin. His presence at the heart of power was seen as a symbol of the autocracy's corruption and disconnect from the people's suffering. As the opposition to Rasputin grew more intense, the stage was set for a final confrontation. His role as a political puppet master, real or perceived, made him a target not only of personal vendettas, but of a broader movement seeking to save the empire from collapse. In the shadow of war and revolution, Rasputin's life became a battleground of conflicting interests and desperate measures. His enemies were closing in, and the struggle for control over Russia's destiny would soon reach its dramatic climax. Rasputin's influence and the growing animosity towards him made him a prime target for assassination attempts. Despite several close calls, he managed to survive, each incident adding to the mythos surrounding him. The first significant attempt on Rasputin's life occurred in 1914 in his hometown of Pokrovskoye. Kionia Guseva, a former prostitute and fervent follower of the monk Iliador, who was a fierce critic of Rasputin, took it upon herself to end his life. Armed with a dagger, Guseva stabbed Rasputin in the abdomen, a blow intended to be fatal. She reportedly shouted, "I have killed the Antichrist," as she attacked. Rasputin fell, bleeding profusely, but miraculously he survived. Rasputin was rushed to a hospital in Tyumen, where doctors worked tirelessly to save him. The wound was severe, but Rasputin's resilience once again defied expectations. His recovery was slow and painful, yet he emerged from the ordeal alive. Rasputin's survival only enhanced his mystique. To his followers, it was further proof of his divine protection. To his enemies, it was a frustrating reminder of his seemingly unbreakable grip on life and power. The 1914 stabbing was not the only attempt on Rasputin's life. Over the years, he faced numerous threats and minor attempts that further heightened his sense of vulnerability. Letters and whispers warned of impending danger, creating an atmosphere of constant paranoia. Rasputin became acutely aware of the dangers surrounding him. He often spoke of his impending death, predicting that it would come at the hands of those within the very circles he influenced. Other assassination attempts were less direct, but equally menacing. Poisoned food, suspicious figures shadowing his movements, and close encounters with would-be assassins all contributed to Rasputin's growing paranoia and awareness of the threats he faced. Despite his efforts to maintain a facade of invincibility, Rasputin took precautions. He became more guarded, increasing his personal security and taking steps to protect himself from potential assassins. Each failed attempt on Rasputin's life only deepened the enigma surrounding him. To many, he seemed untouchable, a man protected by divine forces or sheer luck. Yet, the shadows of his enemies loomed ever larger, setting the stage for the ultimate confrontation. Rasputin's survival against all odds painted him as a man of destiny, but it also made him a figure of fear and hatred. As the threats against him grew more desperate, the question was not if his enemies would succeed, but when. As Rasputin's enemies grew more desperate, a final, fatal plot began to take shape. Determined to rid Russia of his influence, a group of nobles devised a plan they believed would succeed where others had failed. Among the conspirators were some of the most prominent figures in Russian society. Prince Felix Yusupov, Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, and a few others, convinced that Rasputin's death was necessary for the salvation of Russia, plotted his murder in utmost secrecy. On the night of December 29, 1916, Rasputin was lured to the Yusupov palace under the guise of meeting Yusupov's wife. Expecting a social evening, Rasputin walked into the trap set by his adversaries. In the basement of the palace, Rasputin was offered wine and cakes laced with cyanide. To the conspirators' shock, the poison seemed to have little effect on him. Hours passed, and Rasputin showed no signs of distress. Frustration mounting, Yusupov took drastic action. He retrieved a revolver and shot Rasputin at close range. Believing him to be dead, the conspirators began to relax, but Rasputin's ordeal was far from over. To their horror, Rasputin revived, launching himself at Yusupov before fleeing into the courtyard. In the snow-covered yard, Rasputin was shot again, and this time, to ensure his death, he was bound and thrown into the icy Neva River. The conspirators watched as Rasputin's body disappeared beneath the icy waters, believing that they had finally succeeded. Rasputin's extraordinary resilience, even in death, added to the mythos that surrounded his life. The immediate aftermath of Rasputin's assassination saw a mix of relief and mourning. The Romanovs were devastated by the loss of their trusted advisor, while many in Russian society saw his death as a necessary step toward reform. However, the death of Rasputin did little to halt the tide of revolution. Within a year, the Romanov dynasty fell, and Russia was plunged into chaos and civil war. Rasputin's death, rather than being a turning point, became a tragic footnote in the broader collapse of Imperial Russia. Debate about Rasputin's true role and influence continues to this day. Was he a malevolent force who contributed to the downfall of the empire, or a misunderstood mystic caught in the crossfire of a collapsing society? Rasputin's legacy is a complex tapestry of myth and reality. His life and death have inspired countless books, films, and debates, each attempting to unravel the enigma of the Mad Monk, who became a symbol of both mystical power and political intrigue. Rasputin's story is one of mystery, controversy, and enduring fascination. His life, filled with extraordinary influence and dramatic events, remains a subject of intrigue, symbolizing the tumultuous end of an empire and the dawn of a new era. From Siberian peasant to royal confidant, Rasputin's journey was as enigmatic as it was impactful. His death marked the end of an era, but his legacy continues to captivate and challenge our understanding of history. As we reflect on the life of Grigori Rasputin, the debate over his true nature remains as divisive as ever. Was he truly the mad monk, a mystical healer and holy man, or was he a cunning political puppet master, manipulating the levers of power for his own ends?